recorded live.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be across the nation or around the world. Once again, you'll see the VMware Communities Roundtable podcast. This is podcast number 666. My name is Eric Nilsson, and with me today, I have my regular co-host, Matt Lungeth. Today is Wednesday, October 25th, 2023. Matt, how you doing today?
Eric, I am well. I am not in my normal home studio here. I am in the lovely land of Pittsburgh, where it's an unseasonably warm 74 degrees currently. And even at that, coming in on the Parkway last night, it was in the mid 80s, believe it or not. So a bit of a extended Indian summer, if you will, over here on the East Coast. But things are well. Late breaking news, I will be joining you folks at Explore Barcelona. I will be doing a revised deck of my Horizon Cloud on Azure Tales from the Field presentation that I've been giving at various user cons, and also Explore Las Vegas that was delivered at. So looking forward to seeing our customers, partners, and fellow VMware employees over in Barcelona here in short order. But to all of that, sir, my favorite questions. How are you? How are things out on the West Coast? And what is the color of the bay?
Well, it got cold this week, so it is pretty cold, and I'm doing pretty well. It's an interesting week here as Broadcom has started sending out letters to people. They're rolling them out, so not everybody has gotten their letters. It's supposed to be happening this week and early into next week. So, but I did get a letter, so I am happy. I am joining Broadcom, and I'm happy about that. And so that's interesting times this week for sure. But the weather is nice. We're excited about Explore coming up. Everybody's laying the groundworks of what we're doing. We've got obviously the hackathons happening Monday. We're trying to get the experts together on Tuesday. We'll see if that happens or not. We're not sure yet. We don't have a place confirmed. We've got the Code Theater happening. We got the VMT and Brown Bag Theater happening. We got Code Labs on ChatGPT API usage. That's happening. So everything's committed. So we're just, running through this week as we get through the Broadcom, transition, and then getting ready for Explorer in Europe. So, and, it's cold, and the color of the bay is green, dark green and choppy because it's cold and windy here in the bay. Corey Romero, you're sitting quietly. How's things in Utah, and what have you been up to?
Things are cold here in Utah. Matt, if you wouldn't mind getting a couple fans from the local Walmart there and just pointing them towards Utah, I would appreciate it. Weather's starting to drop here, so it is getting cold, and looking forward to some snow so I can enjoy the mountains with my family this year. vExpert news. This morning we had a vExpert webinar. It was with VMware, and it was on Holodeck Toolkit. It was a great webinar that is uploaded and available on the vExpert website for vExperts under events and opportunities. So go in there and log in, and we've got an hour webinar for you to listen to. It's really, really good information.
It's a great one. If you want to do a nested VCF instance for those home laborers that are out there in our audience, a fantastic opportunity to learn about that with Project Holodeck.
Absolutely. Yeah. As far as Explore goes, like you said, Eric, hopefully you're going to be mentioning or announcing a vExpert a party here soon. So once we nail that down, I will send out mail and let everybody know about those details.
Awesome. Well, on the show today, we're going to be covering exploring Aria operations for Network 6.11 with Matt Just. So we have Matt on the podcast today. Excited to have him here. Aria operations for Network 6.11, I think, is getting ready to drop or has dropped. But Matt, we're a community podcast, so I'll ask you to just do a quick introduction of yourself and what's your career arc look like. You get a couple minutes here to talk about who you are and how long have you been at VMware and how did you get here?
Yeah, thanks, guys, and I appreciate you having me on the show. My name is Matt Just. I'm a staff technical marketing architect with the Modern Apps and Management Business Group, or the MAMBG as they call it. So I've been with VMware for approximately going on 8 years now. Actually started off as a NSBU SE, so selling to globals and enterprise accounts for network and security based products for a few years, and then moved over to healthcare, and then joined the business unit in 2018. and I've been supporting Aria operations for networks, formerly vRealize Network Insight, prior to the name change last year. But yeah, I've been in the industry for 25 years plus, mostly on the networking security side of the house is my background. Prior to VMware, worked for companies like Dell Technologies, Cisco, and many of the big players out there in the networking industry.
Matt, when I think of Aria operations, I'm immediately turned back to, if you will, Verney, right? Everybody thinks of it as Verney. Now, is it just a name change, or is it a fundamentally different product, or is it maybe just a combination of both, where we've taken what was Verney and extended it, right? So for those that might have been used, Verney previously, or haven't gone down the Aria operations pathway, what are some of the differences that are out there? Where have we gone in the last year from what was, the Verney platform now over to Aria?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, aside from the name change, the product itself has continued to evolve. We've been ever since the product came about in 2016. We've basically been doing new releases every quarter. And the nice thing is, with all the releases that we do with the product, is we include new features, new integrations, and so on, supporting VMware infrastructure and also beyond VMware infrastructure. So we try to stay vendor agnostic in that essence from a product standpoint, and support network visibility and security visibility across many different vendors and players across the industry, along with visibility into VMware Cloud running on various hyperscalers such as AVS and GCV and so on, and then even getting into the public cloud side such as AWS and Azure, providing visibility. So that way, customers can take advantage of having a single tool that can be utilized among VMware admins or virtual admins, network admins, security admins, to all collaborate on monitoring and troubleshooting their infrastructure, whether it's in the cloud, if it's in the underlay, if it's in their data center, if it's in the VMware infrastructure, the networking infrastructure, the connectivity between cloud and on premises. So tying in all the visibility there, and then encompassing, and including not just virtual machine, but bringing in things like containers, and and that's across the board, supporting things like even AKS and EKS visibility. So the product has continued to evolve every quarter, and new features. We've made some acquisitions over the years and incorporated those products into what is now Aria Operations for Networks. Our current release is 6.11 that we're on. So as far as expanding under the Aria name, we've been kind of aligning with the release of as we announced a little over a year ago, Aria Hub, which is now actually Tanzu Hub, and aligning with a lot of the integrations and tie-ins and so on, with helping to bring a unified experience to our end users. So that way they can use a single interface to go to work with all things monitoring, cloud migration, securing their cloud environment and their cloud infrastructure, things like guardrails and so on, monitoring costs and so on, with the cloud health integrations that we've done. Aria Operations Networks is a big player in that market, fitting in along that vision as far as being able to unify that experience for end users.
Matt, over on the EUC side, one of the things that we often get involved with is the application rationalization process. And as part of that, I'm always astounded by, if you take the average enterprise app, and that could be, a traditional ERP or something homegrown and whatnot, and the amount of hooks, if you will, that a given system will have into other enterprise applications, or both enterprise applications on-prem and then maybe a combination of SaaS services.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, all of mapping that out, if you will, right? To try to figure out, okay, and this is incredibly important as we start to talk about cloud migrations or cloud mobility, right?
Yep.
We're that agnostic provider of being able to migrate between an on-premises data center or maybe a co-hosted data center, or moving that workload up to a hyperscaler. And it's an incredibly complex process. It really is. And I think that Aria operations plays a key role there in that, potentially, as far as the application rationalizations and finding out where all of these tentacles, if you will, are at for any given application, regardless of what the documentation may say for that particular app. So can you walk us down a little bit of that as far as how Aria plays a role in that process, and aiding, an administrator as far as what the true network traffic is from a given app?
Yeah. So, with Aria operations for networks, basically, we're able to, because we utilize, as you mentioned, different hooks. So we are, we're an agentless solution. So, we're totally virtual appliance based solution, or SaaS based solution also offering. But being able to tie into things like vCenter, ingesting flows from the virtual distributed switches, or things like the distributed firewalls within NSX, or flow logs and flows coming from native AWS or native Azure as an example, and pulling in metrics along with flow data, along with encompassing the whole embracing the AI that, obviously with everything that's going on with AI, the craze, today and so on, utilizing AI ML algorithms to be able to put all of that together and provide a full picture from the on-premises infrastructure, monitoring, how are the routers and switches and load balancers and so on, the firewalls all performing both in the physical underlying infrastructure in their on-prem data center and in the virtual infrastructure running in the overlay, such as NSX or just standard vCenter with VDS. And then extending that visibility beyond the data center to, as you mentioned, either public cloud or VMware cloud running on any hyperscaler, monitoring the connectivity between the on-prem data center and the performance of the applications and so on. Because as we get into application migrations, a lot of times part of the application might stay on-prem and the other part might be, running in one of the, cloud of choices. So it's important that we have that full visibility, how the applications are performing for our end users that we're supporting, that are utilizing and consuming the applications across the network infrastructure, both virtual and physical. So tying in and pulling all of that into a single interface, a single tool to be able to utilize those metrics, and be proactive in this essence of setting intents against your infrastructure, to be alerted if we're starting to see issues, not only from a troubleshooting perspective, but even a best practice configuration as you're deploying these products, whether it's VMware products or non-VMware products, looking at them and giving you an insight as to, hey, from a configuration standpoint, we're seeing inconsistencies, and these are where we can advise where you should make changes and so on within your infrastructure to provide better performance for those applications. And I think some of the key things to call out, as an example, like we talk about cloud migrations. So one of the key things is what makes up an application? When we work with various different customers, it's discovering applications is one of the key challenges. Knowing every dependency and boundary that that the application has, and old applications, a lot of aren't even documented with a lot of customers. So it's trying to discover that. So utilizing things like the flow-based application discovery and machine learning algorithms, we're able to do analysis on flow data and do analysis on data that we're pulling from things like vCenter or even native AWS or native Azure, and we can discover those applications and map out their dependencies, whether it's shared services or shared dependencies upon a database across multiple applications, to ensure that before we even get into migrating the applications, we truly know what the impact could be if we do not migrate all of, and take into consideration those dependencies, and also their constraints and their requirements across the network. How much bandwidth are they consuming? What's the requirements there? Security, what type of security requirements, what type of policies do we have to put into effect? Planning the security, ensuring that we've got secured firewall rules deployed so that we're implementing segmentation across the infrastructure, both in the underlying infrastructure and overlying infrastructure, even if it's non-VMware running in public cloud. So tying all that in, and again, and then being able to move past that to where we're utilizing hooks into monitoring HCX performance. So connectivity for migrations to VMware Cloud on various hyperscalers, the performance of the HCX infrastructure, the applications performance as they're moving across those stretched layer 2 networks that are being stretched, from the on-prem data center to the cloud of choice. And then taking it even beyond that and monitoring things like Direct Connect or Express Route, and looking at connectivity to the public cloud from the on-prem data center or from VMware Cloud running on a hyperscaler. So again, many different use cases and many different features that we pull in to help not only just monitor and troubleshoot, but also plan and then do analysis across, okay, here's my application in its current state and how it's performing on my network. Here's who's accessing the application. These are the geos that are accessing the application. This is how much egress traffic I have. This is the security rules that I have in place on my current infrastructure. Now I'm moving to a new infrastructure and I need to re-provision those security rules on that new infrastructure. How do I plan that accordingly to ensure that I'm securing it when it moves to its new infrastructure? And then being able to post-migration, take a look at that application, not only in its new state and its new, transformed environment,
comparing against nominal, right?
Reference the past state, because we're a time machine. So go back and look at 13 months of data, looking at and doing a side-by-side comparison and analysis to say, okay, well, if an end user says, hey, ever since it's moved to the cloud, I'm experiencing issues. Well, I can go in and I can do comparisons to see what's different. What has changed? What are we seeing from performance-wise? Are there 10 extra hops now that traffic has to get to the destination application? Do I need to optimize that? So taking all that into consideration and bringing all that visibility, to the end user, the like I said, the admins, the security admins, and the network admins that are managing these networks.
And you had mentioned flow-based application discovery. And reading through your post over on blogs.vmware.com, which I'd encourage our listeners to go out and to review that entire article, there is specific improvements in application discovery with 6.11. So what are some of those improvements, and how does that aid in this application discovery process?
Yeah, so what we've been doing is we've been doing enhancements around the flow-based application discovery above and beyond some of the things that we've done in the past, like being able to utilize tagging and regular express pattern builders to discover applications. And we're enhancing that by not only enhancing the algorithms that we're utilizing on the back end as part of the machine learning and so on. But helping the customer also, because a lot of customers might be using a CMDB, like say ServiceNow as an example. So not having to start all over but to be able to say, okay, let's bring in ServiceNow and hook it in and add it as a data source, as we call it, into Aria Operations for Networks. And now let's import that CMDB and start taking a look at those applications that are defined and providing insight to, hey, we're seeing additional dependencies, we're seeing additional things that need to be enhanced or need to be updated on that CMDB so that customers can true up their CMDB. But also allowing them to utilize additional tools like what we added in 6.11 is the capability of uploading a CSV as part of the flow-based application discovery process. So not only are we looking at like load balancers and the load balancing pools, the flows, the names, the tags, and encompassing all of that, we also add an additional feature set where a customer can take a simple CSV template that they can download from within the product, define the VM names, the application name, and the tier names that they want the VMs to be grouped within. And then as flow-based application discovery is running, it's actually utilizing the names that they prefer rather than utilizing what we use in some ways that you can customize this in the product. Do you want the applications that are discovered to use, like, let's say, a combination of VMware names to better help you understand what that application is that we're discovering and identify it? Well, so a lot of customers can either start with the CSV, upload it, and let it run, and it will actually constantly monitor and let you know if changes are detected and we need and what we're seeing, and also populate those applications within the product. Or a customer could take the discovered applications utilizing flow-based application discovery, and let's say they want to use VM names to form the combination so that they can identify the app. They get that list, they get a hey, I've identified this application. I've got high confidence level on the algorithms and so on. It's divided into these 5 tiers. These are the tiers, database, app, web, whatever. But now I may want to customize, and I may have, 5,000 applications. So now it's like, well, I don't want to go through and manually, rename those VM names combined to an actual application name. I would like to simplify that and take all the discovered applications that have been all grouped and all their dependencies, download that as a CSV from the product, and then be able to modify that and change it to the naming that you want to use, that you're familiar with within your organization, that you make, it could be a custom application, it could be a well-known application, but either way, providing the naming convention that you want to use that's more user-friendly to your admins as you're troubleshooting and monitoring these applications and understanding what they are, and then uploading that CSV and having it align, those naming convention changes to the discovered applications that flow-based application discovery has discovered. So you're still getting the intelligence of discovering all the dependencies. You're still getting all the intelligence of knowing what are the application boundaries, what tiers there are, and so on, but giving more flexibility on how you can control the naming convention of those tiers, and those applications based on what we're discovering and mapping out in the product.
So it sounds like not only could we use this at the time of discovery, if you will, but then also, as you had mentioned, for if there was a significant change in naming convention or just application mapping in general, right? So we have the initial entry where we could use the CSV, but then if it would need to change based on the requirements or just general, I could see a very probable use case where here's what the naming convention would based on assumptions, right? When you're in there, and this is what we think it is as far as the level of tiering. But then we come back and we do that initial load as far as the naming convention, but then we're going to run a data set against it. And what we thought were the tiers could be significantly different. And then it sounds like we now have the ability to go back in, re-download that CSV based on what the true performance or discovery and then data behind that, and then make the necessary changes to reflect our naming conventions based on the actual run.
Exactly. Yep. And that's it. One of the new feature enhancements that we've added in the 6.11 release of the product that we're currently on. So it's been a popular request among our customers, and so it was. We actually showcased it at VMware Explorer US and was a big hit. Yeah, definitely, exactly spot on.
What are some of the other features that in the 6.11 release that you think are important for admins to be aware of?
Yeah, so I think one of the things too that we've really done is enhance. So as you may be aware, we acquired Veriflow years back, and we've integrated their product or that product into Aria operations for networks, and that encompassed adding new features like what we call the network map, or network assurance and verification, along with intents, being able to define intents against your infrastructure, both security, network related, checking MTU mismatches, all that type of stuff, incorporating all these intents that you can define or run out of the box within the product. And we pull that into the product. Well, with the network map, what we've done is the network map provides visibility, and you can see it in the blog. We have a short video that shows it in action. It maps the virtual infrastructure to the physical infrastructure and above and beyond, providing full layer 2 and layer 3 visibility into how the overlay is communicating with the underlay and the dependencies, and then also being able to map out all possible paths that traffic could take across, identifying, if I say, here's a source, here's a destination, are there any do they have access to each other? Well, yeah, here's 4 different possible paths that the data could access currently based on how the infrastructure is configured and deployed. And then doing analysis and saying, okay, well, what paths are actually blocked by firewall rules, and which firewall rules are those that are blocking those paths? Okay, and that can come into help into planning from a security perspective, and then setting an intent against that to ensure that doesn't change. Or I can look at it and say, you know what, this is part of a problem. Someone implemented a firewall rule, and it's now blocking traffic to all possible paths, and I don't want that. So now I need to go in and make that modification and fix that. So having all that data made readily available. Now, what we've done in 6.11 is we've enhanced the mapping. So when you're dealing with large infrastructures, you've got so many different layer 2, layer 3 connections, tons of physical networking and virtual networking devices, ESXi host, all of that to take into consideration.
Thousands, if not tens of thousands of VMs that are out there.
And it can become
clusters now. Sure.
Yeah, and it can become cumbersome into regards to, looking at a map and trying to visualize all of this in one single map. So what we've done is, instead of having to, have the map initially, draw out all the connections and layer, things on the actual map itself, and then you going in and customizing them as groups and then moving them around and positioning them the way you want to look on the map. Now we've added new features like auto layout. So you can come in and you can say, I want to run auto layout on these specific groups, and hit auto layout, and it's going to automatically lay it out for you and group it for you. So that way you spend less time trying to set up the map in the way of and trying to figure out how you want to map out the visibility across all those connections. So a lot of enhancements there to make the network map more usable, or more, I should say, from a usability perspective, a lot more friendly to especially customers running very large infrastructures, dealing with thousands and thousands of devices, both underlying and overlying, along with all of their ESXi hosts and so on, and being able to have that as a nice visual that they can interact with within the actual network map itself.
All right. Matt, I know I'm going to be respectful. Matt Longathal, respectful of your time. So let me know when I have a series of questions. I'll ask from a product perspective, like how do you get this? Where does it go? How much does it take time to set up? That kind of stuff. Any final words before I know you got to leave early? So
I do, unfortunately, that those customers are being customers. So I have a meeting that I need to attend here a little early today. So Matt, it was a pleasure talking with you. I would reference that customers go out there over to blogs.vmware.com to read onto Matt's article. And with that, Eric, I'll turn over the rest of the show to you. Thank you.
all right. Well, great.
Yep, thanks, Matt.
So Matt, I did spend some time with the article, and I think we can, because we deep dive with Matt Longath first, because we knew how to go. I do want to, get to the widgets that you also call out. Why don't we talk a little bit about that? Because we have covered the CSV, the network map discovery features that you cover in the blog. Nice video demoing that. So I would say if you're listening to this, you want to go look at his blog, just go to blogs.vmware.com and search in the left-hand search for Matt Just, M-A-T-T space J-U-S-T, and his article shows up when you search on him. It's about third or fourth down, and you can go take a look at that article, right, which is labeled Technical Deep Dive on VMware Aria Operations for Network 6.11. So that's what we're talking about here. So Matt, before I'll up-level the conversation into some how do people get started with Aria operations networks. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about the widgets that you also covered in the article.
Yeah, so one of the things that we've done is we've enhanced, we used to call them pin boards. So you could take, you'll notice pretty much every widget within the product has a pin on it that you could say, you know what, I want to make a custom pin board and pin this to that pin board. Well, we've made some changes. We now refer to them as dashboards. We got away from the pin boarding name. But what we do is we still have the flexibility of saying, hey, this data is important to me. I want to pin this to a dashboard. And I also want to set this dashboard to be the dashboard that loads up when I first log into the product, because this is what my job role focuses on, as an example. So let's say like a network admin wants to only focus on the network side and performance. And then what we've done is, along with the dashboards that we have that you can pin your own widgets to, we also have suggestive widgets. So we've created things like looking at firewall rule hits, or where's your traffic distribution, east-west versus north-south. What's your various different metrics and so on that are all represented in various widgets within the actual product, that will come up as suggested now based on the type of data that you're putting on the dashboard, and give you smart suggestions as additional widgets that you could add that might bring value to you within the dashboard that you're populating.
Makes sense. That makes sense, right? So getting back up to people and the sweet spot for this product, right? Like if I look through the article and I look at the amount of time you're going to have to do config, and then the value of being able to see your applications and the network traffic for applications, and then visualizing that, and then having alarms for it, which I saw at the bottom of the article, the NSV end of life warnings that you guys are going to be putting up. When customers, where's the sweet spot for customers with this? Like, is it rather large customers that is the sweet spot? And then I'm going to follow up with like, how, if you haven't started using this yet, what's the best way to start to absorb this product, right? I assume you have to get the Aria product suite, right? And so let's talk a little bit about that. But you can talk about NSV end of life warnings. Then we'll talk about where's the sweet spot of this product. What are you seeing from a customer perspective? And then if administrators want to get started with this, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as the NSXV warnings, that's just alerting customers, because obviously NSX for vSphere, was an earlier version of NSX that we support within the product, that has been in the transition over to what they refer to as NSXT, as you may hear, but is now just VMware NSX as they're referring to it. So, as that goes end of life, end of support, we won't be supporting visibility for that product, obviously within our product and any longer past those dates. So we're just kind of giving a warning, letting people know that,
where you're
eventually that's going to
exposed.
go away. Yep.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the sweet spot in consuming the product,
Before you go there, I got one question on chat that I missed to ask, and then we'll get into the sweet spot. The question in chat was VR, and this was a while ago. So VR NI used to have a free tier when you used it with NSX to do some application discovery. Is that still available?
Yes. So essentially what you have capabilities of doing is we offer the product either as a SaaS offering where we're running, VMware's hosting the platform and so on. And then you're just deploying the collector appliances within your infrastructure that do the flow and data collection and deduplication aggregation, and then just send the metadata to the platform. Or you can run it as an on-premises offering. Both of those come with a full license free trial. So if you want to run the SaaS offering, you can go to our website, the VMware website, go to the Aria Operations for Networks and sign up for a free trial. You'll actually get a full access to Aria Operations for Networks SaaS for 30 days. Or you can, if you want to do the on-premises trial, you can do that too. And that'll actually give you 60-day access to the product. With no limitations, where you can actually utilize the product in full. And that does include the application discovery and mapping and so on. So you can try the product out, see how it fits within your infrastructure. The nice thing about deploying the product, whether it's either the SaaS or the on-premises version, it's very quick and easy to deploy because it is virtual appliance based or SaaS, and SaaS based. So it's one less thing on the SaaS side that you have to deploy. But it's one of from a product perspective, there's not a lot of setting up that needs to be done. The nice thing is the product takes, once the data sources are added, okay, and those could be self-discovered or automatically discovered or self-entered or automatically as part of the discovery process added to the product, because we have capabilities of crawling the infrastructure and finding those based on, you setting up seed IPs and credentials. But bringing all of that data and all of those flows and then populating all of this into very useful data within a matter of hours from from the time of deployment. Start discovering the application, start running all of that. So it sets itself up, and it's very self-automated in the capabilities of bringing value with all of the dashboards that we have internally and the tools that are already out of the box, above and beyond what you can do custom, that you can immediately get value out of when deploying the product. So essentially, standing up the product takes roughly about an hour, depending on which path you go. And then after that, you're roughly, you could be within 3 to 4 hours of data collection, you really have useful data that you can utilize. So it's a nice product to, especially if you're going to try it and access the free trial. That's very easy to stand up and very easy to start consuming and seeing the value in right away, rather than having to go through and manually build out all these custom dashboards and all these custom screens and what do I want to monitor, what do I not want to monitor. Obviously, if you want that granular flexibility, you can, but we have so many automated features with the self-discovery, the AI, the ML, and so on that we do with it. We can take the performance of an application in the network and we can baseline it, and then we can say, okay, it's starting to vary and from its baseline, and this could impact the performance. So here's an alert, and you can consume those alerts in many different ways. SNMP, streaming, data bus. You can do syslog, email, many different ways that you can be alerted to be proactive. And all of that is out of the box and automatically set up on the product. So you don't need to go through and manually create all of that.
Nice. Nice. All right, I got another question that kind of answered that, which is, it's not hard. And I guess Network Insights we used to be the name, and it was kind of standalone. So I could see where you guys, from a product history perspective, had something easy that you could get set up and start using quick, because standalone products tend to be that way, right? So
Right.
that sounds reasonable. In my notes here, looking at your blog article, I meant to ask Fortinet device discovery. I see that you've added that in your blog as a checkbox thing that now you can do. What is Fortinet and device discovery? I'm sorry, we're going directionally here, but I'll get back to more product information. But yeah, I meant to ask that.
Good point. So Fortinet is primarily, they're primarily a firewall company, similar to Palo Alto and Checkpoint and some of the other players out there on the market. We've had integration with Fortinet for quite some time, but as we've been doing, one of the things is when we first started the product, you had to manually go in and add each data source. So you'd add your firewalls, you'd add your load balancers, your routers, your switches, your NSX managers, your vCenters, and it was a manual process. We've been going about and automating that discovery process across the infrastructure so that it's not as time consuming adding the individual data sources into the product to start monitoring them. So one of the things that we've done around the Fortinet side is we've made it so that you can utilize the CSV and so on, and also the auto discovery now as part of adding and enhancing the auto discovery to auto discover your Fortinet devices within your infrastructure, rather than having to manually go in and enter each individual firewall as a data source within the product. So it's an enhancement upon the auto discovery of those devices, and also allows flexibility of utilizing CSV imports also to discover those devices.
Cool. All right, that makes sense. Next one, HOL, because I'm just taking through okay, now we go back to onboarding. How do I get started if I'm an admin? HOL, I assume there must be HOLs for this, right? That you can go take a free HOL and kind of get started without actually install anything, right? I assume.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we have HOLs that you can access at different levels. You can go through different types of use cases that you can utilize. We also have our YouTube channel where we actually we have Aria Operations for Networks University, which is a compilation of multiple videos that educate you on the product, along with show live demonstrations and so on for many different use cases. We have access to a lot of collateral and so on that you can have access to via the VMware website under the Aria Operations for Networks section. And then on top of that, the other thing is, as you mentioned with HOLs is, we always typically have a presence. So at Explore US, and then we have Barcelona coming up here. We do have demo booths inside the expo hall. We have many sessions that we do on the product to learn about various new features and so on that we're bringing. So, you can look for those. And then also within the hands-on lab section within Explore, you can go in and do the hands-on labs there also. So if you're at Explore, you can take advantage of those sessions in the hands-on labs and the stopping by the booths in the expo hall to ask questions and check out all the latest and greatest that we're bringing to the product here upcoming.
Great. That makes sense. So HOL there. Last thing that's on my list of fun topics, which is, you've seen this, in the wild, I'm sure, right? Customers are using it. Any kind of, I want to give customers, or at least people listening to this, idea of fun implementations. Do people put this in the NOC? Do they, where you have a screen that's watching that network dashboard that you have, and watching that? Do people put it on a second monitor? What are some of more of the interesting use cases you've discovered out in the wild that you might want to share with us behind the scenes?
Yeah, so we see it used in many different places. At NOCs, SOCs. Basically, we've seen them, used where it's got multiple screens up all over the place on, big screens inside the NOC or the security operations centers. Whether, depending on what they're focusing on, obviously. We have customers that, admins that have it up and running on a separate screen or a monitor. But the nice thing is also is, with the product itself, because of all the analysis and the baselining of performance and being able to start looking for deviations, you don't necessarily have to have it up. You can actually just have the product running in your infrastructure. And if we start to see something that could potentially impact the performance of the network or the application, we're going to alert you, via whatever hook you got or however you chose to be alerted. And it's going to alert you, and you can bring the product up. And when you click on the alert, right, let's say you get an email, it'll actually open up into the product and take you right to the data that we're seeing, and so you don't have to search for it. And then you can launch a guided network troubleshooting and troubleshoot. So many different use cases. So again, a lot of customers may just have it deployed and let it run.
Sure, right.
Other customers have it running in their NOCs or SOC. We have, I've seen every different caliber customer, from your commercial level customers to enterprise to globals, across all. We support, obviously, and offer the product worldwide. So supporting all geos and in regions and so on. So a lot of various different interesting deployments.
Hey, Corey Romero, I know you're out there. I don't know if you're listening or not, but if you come back up on mute, I have a question for you. Do you know if vExperts get Aria as one of the vExpert licenses you get? And I'm thinking VMware Advantage as well. So I can't see why people wouldn't go play with this, get this up running in their home lab, have a kind of a cool display. I'm thinking, where some of us, VCDX 191 has its own lab, and then you have like displays where you have a rack with like 5 displays, and they just have eye candy going on, right? Just for fun to watch actually what's happening. And I gotta say, there would be no reason why people shouldn't be doing that, right? Because it's free eye candy. It's fun to see what your network is doing. I wonder if this is one of the ones, Aria is one of the ones you get licenses from for vExperts.
We've been struggling getting the Aria licenses for vExperts. That's something that's on my list to work with IT, to continue working with. But currently we do not have licenses for Aria.
All right. Well, that was the answer. Not necessarily the one I want to hear, but one that, is a true answer. So that's what I say. So you do have the HOL. You can go play with the HOL, and then it's only a couple hours to get it going. And it sounds like they have some kind of trial, Matt. Yeah. I would assume that you have a trial that you can go get started with.
Yeah, free full trials that you can download and utilize, either SaaS or on premises, that you can run within your own lab or within your infrastructure to test the product out and see how it performs and what type of data and value you see within the product itself within your own environments.
Great. All right, cool. And now we're at nearly the top of the hour. So Matt, the last bit we do ask our guests is like, what excites you going forward, and any kind of things that are happening in tech in this space, the product, or anything else that you'd like to share with people around, because we are a community podcast. What's actually happening in your world that gets you excited?
Yeah, no, obviously a lot of the big news is, obviously surrounding the acquisition and Broadcom and so on. So I am also happy to report that I will be joining Broadcom also and continuing supporting the product. So that's a great, thing there. And, the development, we have a lot of things in the works. So, I can't really get too much into the roadmap, sake of time and all that, but we have a lot of great features that are coming that I really think are going to be a game changer, that's really set the product apart from other products in the industry when it comes to network monitoring and performance, that you're going to be coming here in the future shortly. And we'll actually be showing some of it at Explore Barcelona. So really excited about those new features that are coming. I really think they're going to be a game changer. And excited to see where things go with Broadcom and as we embark on that journey.
Yeah, that's I gotta say, for me, the Broadcom thing is just a fun thing for me. Like, I know a lot of people are panicking and wondering what it means and how are they, and is Broadcom a good company, bad company, culture, all this kind of conversation. But for me, I personally love hardware, right? I love hardware. I like being owned by Dell because Dell had a bunch of hardware, right? And
Yep.
in the land of, I love chips as well, and I love that kind of space. It'll be kind of fun to see where AI and ML chip development goes, what are our strategies for AI and ML, and how the software layers on with the hardware, and in the data center, the movement back into the data center for LLMs, large language models, and how that all plays out. So I think there's a lot of fun things with Broadcom and how Broadcom aligns with us in the data center. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out and what we can offer as a community to enable that, right? Like, so I'm in a community space and Corey's the expert space, and congratulations to you, that they do pick us up, and they are very technically savvy, type of company, right? So, and they focus more on the tech. They're just a core tech company. They spend less time in the marketing and sales and, happy little spaces that, a Google might find themselves in, and they're much more in the technically build the tech, deliver the tech kind of space. So I'm excited about that because I'm just a techie, geeky, hardware-y guy anyway. So I love the space. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, you and me both.
Yeah. And I also think most people that are listening to this lend themselves in that space, right? Most of us are here because we're geeky tech guys, right? Or so should be fun. Thanks a lot, Matt, because we live stream on VBarbecue on YouTube, youtube.com/VBarbecue. We always want to ask, do you get to do barbecue in Pennsylvania in the summertime? And, and if you do, what's your favorite barbecue to do? Or do you have a favorite barbecue restaurant you like to go to? Or do you hate barbecue and you never do any of it? We always ask this at the end of the show. And it's lunchtime here in California, so we're hungry.
Yeah. So actually, I'm actually out of Michigan, not Pennsylvania, but
all right. Sorry, my bad.
So yeah, in Michigan, honestly, I've got 5 boys, so
the other Matt is out of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I just went there. Sorry.
And they love barbecue. I love barbecue. So we're constantly, we got all the smokers and the grills, and they're, constantly doing briskets. We do where we're at here in Michigan, and it's kind of fishing and hunting is our big sports, and that a lot of people do. So enjoy that, and making various different things within barbecuing. The barbecue there from a restaurant perspective in Michigan, man, that's a tough one. There's a lot of different places, but I think some of the smaller mom and pops that I've been going to, that I've really enjoyed in some of these small towns, have been pretty impressive.
So you covered the more important thing. I throw the restaurants in there just as in case you don't do any barbecue, you can always tell me where you
I go. Do all my own.
So my question for you on that, and then we'll pop over to Tony Foster, see if he's got anything. My question to you, Matt, is you said hunting and fishing. What is your go-to, what's your favorite thing to catch in the wild and then barbecue? Do you do any of that?
So pretty much venison. So deer meat. I mean, obviously we have a ton of deer in Michigan, and so venison, pheasant, rabbit. Those are the primaries, and then we even do a lot of smoking and various different fish. We have salmon and walleye, and every. With all obviously surrounded by the Great Lakes, the amount of freshwater fish is excellent, and it's a really good time getting out there.
So this is just a way of life for you, right?
Yep,
that's awesome.
Yeah, very common for Michiganders.
Yeah, there you go. Matt saying thanks. Tony Foster, anything on your side of the fence with regard to barbecue?
Oh yeah, it's been warm up until today. Today the temperature has started declining, and we're getting rain. So no barbecue today, definitely.
Huh?
But
Well, there
This
you go.
last week I did KC strips.
KC strips. What's a KC strip?
KC strip is a cut of steak, and just a really good sort of lean cut of steak, nice and tender. Just really enjoy the heck out of it.
Can't go wrong with just a piece of meat on the Barbie like that. Well, we're at the top of the hour. Thanks for spending your lunchtime with us, or whatever time you're listening in your car or radio. Appreciate it. Always good to get to see everybody in Barcelona. Looking forward to that. Matt, just are you on Twitter?
Yes, I am.
All right. What is your Twitter handle?
It is it's high tech Matt, but it's actually H1_TEK_MATT. So you can find me on Twitter, and I'm very active on Twitter. So
awesome. Give him a follow, and Aria options for network 6.11 is out, I assume now, and so
yes,
go get it, play with it, and go get yourself some barbecue, get some lunch. We'll be back again always Wednesday 12 to 1 and next week as well, and getting ready for Explore. Thanks a lot, Matt.
Yep, thank you guys.
Corey, thanks a lot. Yep, thanks. See you again next week.
Recording paused.
Nice.